All right, so you end up doing an 8-hour stream with Cuban on his channel. I don't know how the heck you did 8 hours, but you guys got real heated, yelling back and forth. How did you talk for 8 hours, and what happened on the stream?
Well, actually, it was 7 hours. If we had 36 seconds left to go over, we'd have had 8 hours on the dot. Trust me. And that joint came out 60K, bro, and he took it down. If you ask me how we did 8 hours, I'm going to be honest with you. It was just a lot of catching up from the couple of years that we haven't seen each other. You feel what I'm saying? So instead of doing that off the air, we did that shit on the air. So it was a lot of, back and forth going on and stuff like that. I don't think anything real too disrespectful, because I don't think he would try to disrespect me in that manner, vice versa. But we was saying some shit, man, to each other and whatnot.
Well, you think it was like pent up, like frustration?
Yes, 100%, 100%. We was, and the people seen that. That's why you got like damn near 60K in like 15 hours. You feel what I'm saying? No disrespect. He got a good channel, but his channel's not built like that. You know what I'm saying? That's the most views he's ever had on his channel. That quick. You feel what I'm saying? But that's my brother and shit, man. We was on there. We sauce, we was drinking and shit. He had like 15 cigarettes. I said, my nigga, you got a whole pack you just smoking right now in front of the whole world.
The whole carton.
Fuck that. I was like, so we was going back and forth, man. My thing is, I don't think he had anybody on his level where I would say that he loved, that know him, that could go back and forth with him like that. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, vice versa, man, because I'm not his end all be all. Where I'm his big homie and I could tell him what to do and none of that shit. Nah, genuine, that's my man. You know what I'm saying? And he respects me and I respect him. And it felt like a therapy session, man, for both of us, because I got him to admit a lot of things and say a lot of things he probably would never say on Instagram. So when you Instagram and YouTube, so when you catch it, when you caught it, you caught it. You know what I'm saying?
So, but it was an emotional conversation, right?
I would say it was emotional for him, man. He had to get a lot of things off his chest and shit like that, man. I take the world with a grain of salt and whatnot. Emotional as far as how he feel about, everybody around him, as far as like the people that he feel like that's close to him, from the Lizers to the kids to, you know what I'm saying, me, Pearl, you know what I'm saying, his free, everybody that he feels about and shit like that. And it was genuine. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit here and say he said anything wrong. It's just how he felt. You know what I'm saying? Because what he felt is not wrong. How you feel should not be, you know what I'm saying, wrong. It's how you get out your feelings. You know what I'm saying? How you approach the situation is right or wrong. You feel what I'm saying? And I gave him that leeway. I gave him that conduit to be like, yo, man, just get it all off your chest, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, just rock out. Just do what you do, man. Because he had that picked up energy for probably years, decades, or whatever. But, he laid everything right in front of me and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I just had an ear to listen as opposed to judging him and shit. I didn't want to do that.
But didn't at one point you asked him, like, yo, are you crying right now?
You gonna kick your ass. You ask that question, not
me. Everybody knows that we love Cuban.
I did say that, but, listen, men cry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. No, but that's why it was so real. It was such a real conversation because it went down that route. I'm not saying that to like shit on him or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a joke. Right. I know. But, yo, listen, when he did do that, I seen him in a different light. I seen him more in a vulnerable man light, because as men, we seldom cry. We were saying, especially on here, you cry, people gonna make fun of you and all that shit. Yo, I be trying to tell him, man, yo, you a genuine dude. Like, you don't hold back. You say what you say, you know what I'm saying? But this one was 100% Cuban Link. I need to get all this shit off my chest. I gotta cry about it. I gotta scream about it. I gotta curse about it. And you know what I'm saying? And I keep trying to tell him, man, the more you like that, the more you show that to the people, the more the people gonna love you, man. And it showed in those numbers.
Yeah.
And shit like that. He wasn't wrong for having that emotion.
No, not at all, man.
Shit. If I had that emotion, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, but I'm a Scorpio, so I'm kind of crazy. I don't really show emotions like that and shit like that. And if I do cry, it won't be like you know how people got to get into that, to what you call it. I'll just be like shedding tears off. You know how you just shed tears for no reason and shit like that because you just got so much pent up energy or shit in your head going on and whatnot. I'm like that type of person and whatnot. But yeah, nah, shout out to Cuba, man. Like,
sometimes you just be at the house crying for no reason.
yeah, I'll be like, oh my God. Yo, listen, I'm not gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? Men out there, ask yourself, when's the last time you shed a tear? You fucking cried when it wasn't an emotional, super emotional attachment, like a person passing away or something like that. We all have to exercise all our emotions. You know what I'm saying? From anger to sadness to happiness and stuff. That's why we get depressed all the time, because those emotions are not being exercised on a daily basis, man. You know? And sometimes it's overwhelming.
Where that comes from is, as a kid, as boys, we're told that you can't cry. And then we in return show the emotion of anger, and it doesn't provide the same relief that crying does, right?
Yes. And parents, that's the wrong thing to tell your kids, man. Let your kids get those emotions out. They'll be well balanced. They'll be a more balanced human being if you were to
and
tell
then
them.
What happens though? Then the girl that you end up with in the future, he's closed off. He doesn't know how to communicate to me. He won't tell me what's going on. Right? Because you weren't taught to properly communicate. You weren't taught to express yourself in the right way.
Right. Well, I think with men and women, it's the symbolism of yin and yang. You feel what I'm saying? There's a balance between both, man. You get something from one and the other, something from the other and whatnot. And men do close off their emotions, because they're always told that they have to be strong and be, not cry and trudge through it and whatnot. And emotions are weak. Put those behind you and stuff like that. I myself suffer from things like that, unfortunately.
Right.
But with that comes an explosion of emotions that you don't know how to express, and then people will do something crazy to the point where it's like
you end up in
you're
prison.
saying to yourself, yeah, and then you say, why would that person do that? And they wouldn't even know consciously why the fuck why they don't know what they're doing to wind themselves up in prison. Subconsciously, they'll do something to be like, oh shit, how the fuck I get here? You're not balancing your emotions, bro.
So why do you think that Cuban ended up deleting the live? You ain't slick. I saw you that. You took a drink so you could think about your answer.
No, not at all. His excuse to me was he felt like he was being disrespectful towards me and shit like that. And I was like, I don't think he was, to be honest with you. But I think he didn't want all those feelings and how he felt to get out there like that. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a little too much for him. And I think those numbers hit where he was like, damn, this is too much. I take this off. I was, you know what I'm saying? And people were seeing, he was seeing big. He wanted his, I guess, his aura on how he's approaching life to be different as far as like what he's shown in that 7-hour video. Cause we were both drinking. You know what I'm saying? If I had a cigar, trust me, I would have been smoking a cigar. I don't smoke cigarettes, but that was his rationale for that. And I was okay with it. It's his channel. It is what it is. But I would say that led towards the right direction. I think that gave him a beeline of an understanding to say, hey, let me go live and do this all the time. Because I know he went live before a couple of times, but that right there set off a lot of things where a lot of people are actually like tuning in and really listening right now and shit like that. Honestly speaking, I would want him to get away from the Joe stuff because I think it doesn't do anything for him. I want his chapter in his life to be Cuban Link now, you know what I'm saying? Not about Fat Joe and what Fat Joe did to what you call it, because I feel like Liza and them got they just do. You know what I'm saying? Now that part is taken care of. Now we're talking about how his closure is going to be towards the situation or how Joe treated him and whatnot. And I felt like that 7-hour video was a gateway to getting out of there. You know what I'm saying? Because he was in the tunnel driving and all you could see was Fat Joe and the trauma and all that shit was going on. Now he seen a light at the end of the tunnel, and he go, get that out of there by just, doing him.
All right, so then like you guys end up the next day doing like a 2.5 hour live, right? But it seems so much more calm. Seemed like you were being real nice now. Got all the frustration out the first night.
That's him, man. He wanted a mild videos. I said, all right, let's do it. So we did the 2 hours and shit. And, it still did good numbers and whatnot. But, people was acting like, yo, where's the old one? What's the old one?
Yeah.
I said, you should have never took down the old one.
People was hitting me up too, like, yo, what happened to Cubans Live and blah, blah, blah. I'm all like, man, I don't take care of that. You guys acting like that's my channel or something like that. I don't know what's going on.
Listen, it means something when they asking for a 7-hour video, bro. We did 7 hours straight. No break.
Almost 8 hours.
Almost 8 hours straight, no break. We did like a shift.
I'm not gonna
bro.
lie though, because like I saw that you guys were live, and then all of a sudden I came back like hours later. I'm like, wait, these motherfuckers are still on here? I was like, what? What is going on right now? I'm like, God damn! Like, how much do you have to talk about? And people were trying to tell me, they're like, yo, you got involved in that stuff. They was bringing you up, and they was saying this and woo 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 woo. And I'm all like, it got nothing to do with me.
We were showing you love, man. You know what I'm saying? Me and Cuban gets into this back and forth. Who's Panda's friend first type shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nah, Panda's my people. Nah, you fuck out of here. No, you talking about, I introduced you to him. Like, no, the fuck you did, man. What are you talking about? But, 7 hours, man. Like, and that's a magical thing because, like I said, who the fuck is interested in a 7-hour motherfucking live? It's crazy. When I seen those numbers, I knew I was going to get numbers because I knew I could pull out of them and stuff. Like, he was giving me stories that he never told before. That was another interesting thing. The J-Lo story, it was a couple of stories and shit. I forgot. I wish to.
No, but you was funny at the beginning of that 2.5 hour one the following day. You was all like, oh, like I think you said like some kind of joke right at the beginning, like, oh, no drinking this time, or like something. I'm like, we going, we're not gonna be emotional this time or something. Like I forgot what you said exactly.
Right. Listen, man, I don't know. Because we could joke on each other and stuff like that. Like, I'm annoying, man. I'll push a butt or two. You understand what I'm saying? So, like I said, he's probably the one that's always doing that to other people. When it's me, we go back and forth. That's why we was there for hours and whatnot. So,
you was like, you ain't gonna Debo me. I'm gonna Debo. You ain't pushing me around.
So he said ain't no drinking, no none of that shit. Because he had a whole bottle of Patron. He drank that whole fucking bottle, that whole $7. I had the Baileys. I drunk the whole Baileys bottle almost damn near. So I was like, we just keep it civil and whatnot. We just, it was a no drinker. So that's why you get the mild-mannered 2-hour joint instead of
I was drinking Thunderbird watching.
Thunderbird? You drinking Mad Dog 2020.
No, I had a little taste of that cognac, No,
but in the end of the video, man, he told me it did something for him. You know what I'm saying? He thanked me for it and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And like any other brother, he appreciated the talk because, like I said, I guess he didn't get that from anybody else and whatnot. So, I appreciate him just, us kicking it and just, doing what we usually did back in the block and when we was on in the hood and shit like that and whatnot. It took us back to like 94 and whatnot. That's why.
Why don't you guys start your own podcast? Cuban and Debo.
Not starting a podcast with no Cuban Link. You understand what I'm saying? That man will talk.
Come on, man.
Yo, you see what happened while I was dealing with Pearl? Cuban's that times 10. I'm like, nah, yeah. Talk to him. I'm just standing there like this. Listen to everybody. Yeah, no, right. Nah, that's a fact. Nah, you like, come on. Like, nah, man, he'll take over. And like, that's why he's good on his own shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that man can talk. Let him talk. You know what I'm saying? Salute to Cuban, man. That's my brother.